Hello everyone and welcome. This is technically a review for Jujutsu Kaisen chapter 196, but in reality we're going to be focusing on quite a bit more than just this chapter. A lot of this video is going to be me talking about Maki's character in general because this was a very big chapter for her character development, so there's quite a bit of stuff to talk about. I recommend sitting down, kicking back, grabbing a snack, perhaps a beverage of some sort, because I've got a lot to talk about. First thing right out the gate, a little bit of negativity. Not on my part. Well, I suppose I'm being mildly negative when I respond to these things, but I've seen some people that aren't really a big fan of this chapter, or not a big fan of some of the things that have been happening overall. In terms of the overall stuff, I've seen a few people complaining about how, I'm tired of it just being fight to fight to fight and nothing else going on. This arc's getting a little boring. I need a little bit more than just the fights. To those people I say, were you reading the series before? Were you? How long have you been reading the series for? Because that's basically the series. It's been mostly fighting, just throughout the entirety of the series. I mean, that's effectively what the Shibuya incident was. It was all a bunch of people in one location, or different locations at the same site, just fighting each other for 56, 57 chapters. And then that's just kind of the rest of the series. Most of the series is just fights, and then more fights, leading into other fights. It's literally called Sorcery Fight. I don't know why you are suddenly having problems with it, because this is just kind of how Jujutsu has always worked. I know we used to have the occasional slice of life thing, but I'm pretty sure Gege said back when Shibuya ended that there's not really going to be any of those happening anymore because there's just not opportunities for those things to happen. But even then, we do still have downtime chapters, usually like character flashbacks or introspections. I mean, shit. This chapter, while technically having fight in it, was more of like a dialogue character development chapter. Then, we have some people that don't like this chapter because of the Maki developments in it. Now, we already know that there's a sect of the fanbase that really doesn't care for Maki in general because, well, they don't like her. Well, just full stop, they don't like her. But then there's also a sect of people that don't like perfect preparation. They think it was too rushed. They thought it was way too fast. It was too fast-paced for the significance of the arc. Maki getting a huge power-up, Mai dying, Maki destroying the entirety of the Zen clan. That happened way too fast. They don't like it. And that's part of the complaint for this chapter, is that Maki's realization happens way too quickly. We don't see enough of her struggle, of her trying to learn, to come to this new mindset. And I can kind of get that, but other similar examples of characters going through similar situations have had basically the same pacing, and Jujutsu has always been a pretty fast-paced series, so once again, I don't know why you have a problem with it now if you didn't have a problem with it earlier. Then we have some people who don't necessarily have a problem with the pacing of the chapter, but feel that Maki's mindset was not the thing holding her back from becoming like Toji. And that is where I'm going to get into the real substance of this video. Because Maki's growth in this chapter, you could say her mental power-up, is something that's, well, for starters, pretty standard manga stuff, but is not the first instance of something like this that we've seen in the series. So the lesson that Maki gets from Mio is that you should not be worrying about all of these different things when you are in a fight. You have so many different things on your mind that you're focusing on. You are not focusing on the present. You are not focusing on just flowing with everything and being free. Essentially, you want to be really strong in battle, you want to be in some kind of Zen state. You need to live in the moment. Which is actually decent advice even outside of the context of battle manga, generally speaking. It's a good idea to live in the moment and not be so caught up in everything. This is a similar realization to what Yuji had when he first met Todo during the Goodwill event, all the way back when, in like the 30s. So that was like 4 years ago in terms of the chapter releases, in which Todo explains to him, listen, we all exist in this world in our entirety, mind, body, and soul. It's such a simple maxim that people take it for granted. And this sort of realization was something that helped Yuji get his big power-up during the Goodwill event, allowed him to eventually use Black Flash, which has become one of Yuji's signature moves. It's why he was able to fight together with Todo and take on Hanami. I saw someone complaining in the comments for the reaction that, whoa, it took Maki 196 chapters to do what Yuji did in 37. Well, first thing, Yuji's the fucking main character, so obviously there's going to be way more focus on his character development. He's going to be going through way more, and he has gone through way more. Second, Maki really hasn't gotten a lot of personal character development until post-Shibuya, really. Like, she got a bit of stuff during Goodwill event, but that was more so fleshing out her relationship with Mai. She hasn't really gotten a ton of character development since Volume 0, and that was when she was one of the deuteragonists. So, obviously she had way more focus as a character back then. She was one of the main characters, and she's not quite one of the main characters now, but much closer to the main cast than she was before. We don't have a main girl anymore for Nobara, so, guess now it's Maki, which I'm not complaining about. I've never complained about that. And we also see that when Yuji loses focus and starts getting all caught up in things during Shibuya after Nanami dies, all of his failures and terrible things that happen, they pile up on him and they break him, and he's not able to fight at all anymore. And it's Todo coming along and saying, hey, listen, no matter what happens, you are still a Jujutsu sorcerer, you still have a job to do, you cannot get caught up in all of these things when you still have to complete this purpose of yours. So set those things aside and just fight. And that's when he gets back up on his feet and he fights. It's something kind of similar to that. That's actually more similar to the current situation with Maki because of all of the terrible things that have happened. Losing Mai, having what's frankly a very hollow vengeance against the Zenin, and then Naoya being back. Things have not been good for her at all. So she's really needed to have a moment of realization and just clear her mind. The next thing, the similarities to Toji. Back after Perfect Preparation, I released a video talking about how Maki and Toji are not the same character. Because that was a big accusation going around after she got her power up. A lot of people were like, I don't like how she's just Toji 2.0. I don't like how they're just exactly the same. So I was like, no, they're not, for a variety of reasons. Having the same powers as another character does not make you the same character. Now, ironically, in this chapter, she is becoming more like Toji, but she has a very different personality to Toji, and also different motivations. So, obviously still a different character, but this is how she comes closer to achieving his level of power. Toji was almost explicitly a person who had no connections to or care for anything. He had left behind the Zenin, he left behind his family, he left behind his pride. He was a person that did not care about anything and did not have any sort of connections to anything that would keep him tied down. He was the one who was free, and as a result, he could do pretty much whatever he wanted. He didn't have anything bogging him down. When it came to battle, he was utterly, completely free. And that was part of why he was such a monster. And it's also interesting when you take into consideration that not only once, but twice, when he let his emotions start to overtake him during a fight, he died. Both times. First time with the real Toji, that was when he let his pride get the better of him. He thought Gojo surviving a fight with him was an affront to his ability and represented everything that he had come to hate about the Jujutsu world, and as a result, he did not walk away from a fight that he could not win. He got himself killed. Second time is when he recognizes Megumi, thinks about how he wanted what was best for Megumi, literally kills himself. So both times that Toji stops just focusing on the present, not thinking about anything else, he dies. He slips up and dies. So now we have Maki here, who is reaching this sort of level of zen and oneness with everything, just being free mentally. Obviously, she's going to be fighting much better now. And once again, this isn't even a Jujutsu thing. This is just kind of like a general, not even manga thing, just kind of a battle thing in general, is when in the heat of combat, you should not necessarily close yourself off to everything else, but just not focus on anything else. Just be, you know? So, I think this makes a perfect amount of sense. I would understand if you maybe had some issues with the fact that this all happens in one chapter with a character that you just met, who just got introduced. But, you know, pretty similar thing happened with Toto, so I can't really have a major issue with it. Unless he also had an issue with the Toto thing. In which case, fair. But it's Toto, so, you know. And Mio is also an insane person, so it all just kind of lines up. Now, next week, I expect Maki to absolutely whoop some ass. I have reservations about whether or not Daido is going to want to give that sword back, so maybe. Maki's going to have to take it back from him, which would be interesting given how strong he apparently is. That would be an interesting test for her new strength. Maybe Kamo just makes a sword out of blood for her, which would be cool. And of course, she's going to have to fight Naoya. Hopefully she fucking kills him here, because I don't like the guy. I want him gone. Him coming back as a vengeful spirit is neat, but it was something that I could have, you know, I could take it or leave it. I don't really give a shit about it. So get his ass out of here. Get him out of here. She'll be able to kill him now. I thought up a conclusion to the fight yesterday. I believe Naoya hitting Mach 3 was without projection sorcery amplification. So it's very possible that Naoya can hit Mach 3 and then boost himself with projection sorcery to just go like fucking relativistic or something. And then Maki does something cool, like just fucking hold her sword out in front of herself and just cut him in half right down the middle, big double page spread. It'll look really goddamn cool. It was like when Garo cut Sage Centipede in half. It would be great. It would be fantastic. As some people have noted, and I have maybe mentioned at various points, Sakurajima had been pretty mid. Not necessarily bad, like there wasn't anything bad in it, there just wasn't really anything particularly interesting or captivating in it. It was just kind of there. But with these last two chapters, with Daido being really goddamn cool, and then this really good Maki character development, we are kind of improving the quality of the colony overall. It's probably still the weakest colony out of the ones we've had so far, in terms of like writing, not in terms of character strength. But this, I don't know, like latter half of it that we're getting is pretty good. So, needless to say, I'm quite excited to see what we get out of next week's chapter. But with that, that's all for this week's review. If you enjoyed, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Jujutsu Kaisen chapter reactions and reviews every week that we get a new chapter. If you enjoy discussing Jujutsu Kaisen with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.